The alarm sounds were getting louder. Captain Jake Morrison ran down the metal hallway of his ship, the USS Horizon. Red lights flashed everywhere. The floor shook under his feet as another explosion hit somewhere deep inside the ship. "Captain, on the bridge!" someone called out when Jake rushed through the doors. His crew looked scared. Half of them had cuts on their faces. Blood was on their uniforms. "Report," Jake said, sitting in his captain's chair. The main screen in front of him showed stars spinning slowly. That was not good. Ships in space should not spin like that. "We hit 3 big rocks in that asteroid field," said Chief Engineer Sam Williams. His voice came through the radio because he was still down in the engine room. "The rocks tore holes in our hull. We lost 2 engines. Life support is failing." Jake felt his stomach drop. Life support meant air to breathe and heat to keep them from freezing. Without it, they would all die in a few hours. Dr. Lisa Brooks ran onto the bridge. Her medical clothes were covered in blood. "Jake, I need to talk to you," she said. Her face was very serious. "How many hurt?" Jake asked. 17 people have injuries. 3 of them are very bad. They might die if I cannot get them to a real hospital soon." Lisa wiped sweat from her face. "And that is not the worst part. One of the injured is Ryan Carter. Ryan was their communications officer. He was the one who sent messages to other ships and talked to Earth Command. Without him, they could not call for help easily." "Can he still work?" Jake asked. "He has a broken arm and a bad cut on his head, but he says he can try." Lisa looked, worried. "Jake, we need help fast, really fast." Jake stood up and walked to the big window that showed space outside. Stars moved past them in slow circles. The asteroid field they had been studying looked like a wall of gray rocks floating in the darkness. Some of the rocks were as big as buildings. One of them had almost destroyed his ship. The USS Horizon was an exploration ship. Jake and his crew of 25 people traveled to new places in space. They looked for new planets where humans might live someday. They studied strange things they found among the stars. It was exciting work, but also dangerous. Today, the danger had almost killed them all. "Sam," Jake said into his radio, "can you fix the engines?" Sam's voice came back full of static. "Maybe one of them. Give me 6 hours and I might get us moving. Again." "But the life support is the real problem. The air makers are broken. We have maybe 4 hours of air left." 4 hours. Jake felt cold inside his chest. The nearest human ship was at least 2 days away, even if they could send a message, and even if that ship came right away. "Ryan," Jake called to the hurt communications officer. Ryan was sitting at his station with a white bandage around his head. His left arm was in a sling. "Can you send a distress call?" "I am trying, Captain," Ryan said. His voice sounded tired. "But something is wrong with the long-range radio. I can only send messages about 1 light hour away. No human ships are that close." Jake walked back to his chair. He had been a ship captain for 15 years. He had seen many dangerous things in space, but he had never felt this hopeless before. His crew was counting on him to save them. But there was no way to call for help. "Wait," Ryan said suddenly. He was looking at his instruments with wide eyes. "Captain, I am getting something strange." "What kind of strange?" Jake asked. "There are energy readings coming from the 3rd moon of this system. They do not look like natural energy. Someone or something is there." Jake felt a small bit of hope. "Is it human?" Ryan listened to his instruments for a long time. "No, sir. The energy pattern is nothing like our ships. It is completely different." Jake thought hard. First contact with alien life was supposed to follow many rules. There were special protocols. Special people were supposed to handle it. But his crew was dying. Dr. Lisa Brooks came back onto the bridge. "Jake, one of the badly injured people, just got worse. If we do not get help in 3 hours, he will die." Jake looked at his crew. They were all watching him. They trusted him to make the right choice. But what was the right choice when all choices were bad? "Ryan," Jake said slowly, "can you send a message to whoever is on that moon?" "Yes, sir, but..." "Captain, we do not know who they are. We do not know if they are friendly. This could be very dangerous." "More dangerous than dying?" Jake asked. Ryan thought about that. "No, sir." "Then send this message on all frequencies. Make it simple." Jake stood up and walked to Ryan's station. "Send this. We are humans. Our ship is broken. We are dying. Please help us. Ryan's good hand moved over the controls. Message sent, Captain. Everyone on the bridge was quiet. They waited. The ship kept spinning slowly. The red alarm lights kept flashing. Somewhere in the walls, they could hear the air recycling machines working harder and harder. Then Ryan's instruments made a sound. A new sound none of them had ever heard before. Captain, Ryan said, his voice full of surprise. We have a response. Jake felt his heart beat faster. What does it say? It is not in any human language, but there are mathematical symbols, numbers, and Captain, I think they are saying they will help us. Jake looked out the window at the distant moon. Somewhere on that small world, someone had heard their call for help. Someone who was not human. Someone who might save their lives or might kill them. All. But his crew was dying anyway. Send another message, Ryan. Tell them we accept their help. Give them our location. As Ryan sent the message, Jake made a choice that would change everything. He did not know it then. But this moment would be remembered across the galaxy for many years to come. Sometimes, the most important decisions happen when there is no time to think about them. The USS Horizon spun slowly in space, waiting to see if strangers would save them. The alien ship appeared on their screens like a ghost coming out of darkness. It was not like any human ship Jake had ever seen. Instead of the straight lines and sharp edges of human design, this ship was curved and smooth. It looked almost like a living thing floating through space. Captain, Ryan said, his voice shaking a little, they are asking permission to come alongside us. Jake looked at his crew. Everyone was scared, but they were also hopeful. Tell them yes. Through the main window, Jake watched the alien ship move closer. It was smaller than the USS Horizon, but it moved with a grace that human ships never had. As it got nearer, Jake could see that its surface was covered in patterns that seemed to shift and change in the light. They are sending another message, Ryan reported. More math symbols. And Captain, I think they are trying to learn our language. They keep repeating words from our first message. Dr. Lisa Brooks stood next to Jake. What do we do when they board our ship? She asked quietly. We hope they really want to help us, Jake said. The alien ship attached itself to the USS Horizon with a soft bump that Jake felt through the floor. A few minutes later, Ryan's instruments showed that someone was trying to open their airlock. Should I let them in? Asked Lieutenant Dan Taylor, the security officer. Jake thought for a moment. His crew had maybe 2 hours of air left. Yes, but keep your weapon ready just in case. The airlock opened with a hiss of air. Jake walked down to meet whoever was coming aboard his ship. His heart was beating very fast. Behind him came Dr. Brooks and Sam Williams, who had left the broken engines to see the aliens. The first alien to step through the airlock was tall, maybe 7 feet high. Its body looked a bit like a human, but it had 4 arms instead of 2. Its skin was covered in what looked like very short fur that changed colors from green to blue. Its head was larger than a human head, and it had 2 big eyes that seemed very kind. The alien made a sound that was like music mixed with clicking noises. Then it tried to speak in English. Greetings, humans. I am Kethvar. We help. Jake stepped forward slowly. He held up his hands to show he was not carrying any weapons. I am Captain Jake Morrison. Thank you for coming. Kethvar's big eyes looked at Jake for a long moment. Then the alien did something amazing. It held up one of its 4 hands in the same way humans do when they want to shake hands. Jake reached out and shook the alien's hand. The skin felt warm and soft, like touching a cat. Your ship broken? Kethvar asked in slow English. Yes, Jake said. We need help with life support and engines. Kethvar made more musical sounds. 2 more aliens came through the airlock. One was smaller and had 6 arms. The other looked like Kethvar, but was covered in red and gold fur instead of green and blue. This is Melthos, Kethvar said, pointing to the 6-armed alien. Engineer like your Sam Williams, and this is Yel Andra. She helps with... Kethvar struggled with the word. Medicine, Dr. Brooks asked. Yes, medicine. Like your doctor, Brooks. Jake could not believe what was happening. These aliens had somehow learned their names and jobs just from listening to their radio messages. Dr. Brooks stepped forward. "Can you help our injured people?" Yelandra made soft musical sounds and nodded. Jake realized that nodding must mean the same thing to these aliens as it did to humans. For the next 3 hours, the aliens worked alongside Jake's crew. Melthos and Sam Williams worked together on the engines, even though they could not speak the same language. Well, they could understand each other through drawings and hand signals. Jake watched amazed as the 6-armed alien fixed things that Sam said were impossible to repair. Dr. Brooks and Yelandra worked together in the medical bay. The alien had brought strange tools that seemed to heal injuries much faster than human medicine. The 3 badly hurt crew members began to get better right away. Kethavar stayed with Jake on the bridge. The tall alien was very interested in human star charts and computer systems. He learned new English words very quickly. "Why did you help us?" Jake asked while they watched the repairs. Kethavar thought about the question for a long time. "In our language, there is a word. It means, when you see someone in pain, you feel pain too. When you see someone in danger, you must help. It is, how do you say, the right thing to do." Jake felt something warm in his chest. "We call that compassion." "Compassion," Kethavar repeated. "Yes, all thinking beings should have compassion." By the end of the day, the USS Horizon was fixed. The engines worked perfectly. The air was clean and fresh. All the injured crew members were healthy again. Jake's crew gathered on the bridge to say goodbye to the aliens. The humans had learned that Kethavar's people were called Zorians. They were scientists who traveled from star to star, studying the universe. Their home was far away, in a part of space humans had never seen. "How can we repay you?" Jake asked Kethavar. The Zorian leader made a sound that Jake had learned was like laughter. "You do not need to repay kindness. Kindness is its own reward." But Jake shook his head. "No. What you did today, you saved 25 lives. Someday, if you ever need help, I promise you that humans will remember. We will come to your aid no matter how far we have to travel." Kethavar's big eyes seemed to shine. "You make this promise for all humans?" "I make this promise as a human," Jake said, "and I believe other humans will feel the same way." Before the Zorians left, Kethavar gave Jake a small gift. It was a crystal, about the size of a human hand. It was clear like glass, but it had lights inside that moved like tiny stars. "This is a friendship beacon," Kethavar explained. "If my people ever need help, this will carry your voice across any distance, and if you ever need help, speak into it and we will hear you." Jake held the crystal carefully. It felt warm and seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. "I will keep this safe," Jake promised. The Zorians returned to their ship. As it moved away from the USS Horizon, Jake and his crew watched from the bridge windows. The alien ship seemed to dance through space as it headed back toward the moon, where they had been studying something. "Captain," Dr. Brooks said, "what we just experienced, it changes everything, doesn't it?" Jake looked down at the crystal in his hands. The lights inside it pulsed gently, like it was alive. "Yes," he said. "Today we learned that we are not alone in the universe, and we learned that kindness exists everywhere, even among strangers we have never seen before." Ryan Carter, his arm, still in a sling but his head bandage removed, turned from his communication station. "Captain, I have sent a full report to Earth Command about what happened here." "Good," Jake said. "Make sure you tell them about the promise I made." As the USS Horizon began its journey home, Jake sat in his captain's chair and held the friendship beacon. He did not know if he would ever see Kethavar again. He did not know if the Zorians would ever need human help. But he meant every word of his promise. Somewhere in the galaxy there were good beings who had risked their own safety to save strangers. If they ever called for help, Jake would make sure humans answered that call. The crystal pulsed warmly in his hands, and Jake felt like he was holding the beginning of something wonderful, something that might change the future of both their species. 15 years had passed since the day the Zorians saved the USS Horizon. Jake Morrison now wore the uniform of an admiral, with more stars on his collar than he had ever imagined he would earn. His hair was gray now, and lines showed around. His eyes from years of staring at the stars and making hard decisions. He stood in his office on Earth's largest space station, looking out at the busy traffic of human ships. Hundreds of vessels moved in and out of the station every day. Cargo ships, exploration vessels, military cruisers, and passenger transports filled the space around Earth like a cloud of metal insects. Humanity had grown much in 15 years. They had found 12 new planets where people could live. They had built cities on distant worlds and connected them with faster ships and better communication systems. The human population was now spread across 47 star systems. But in all that growth and exploration, no human had ever found the Zorians again. Jake walked to his desk and opened a special drawer. Inside was the friendship beacon that HFY had given him so long ago. The crystal still pulsed with gentle light, but it had been silent for all these years. Jake had carried it with him on every ship he had commanded. He had kept it on his desk in every office he had occupied. But HFY had never called. "Admiral Morrison," came a voice from his door. Captain Amy Stone stepped into his office. She was young, maybe 30 years old, with bright eyes and the kind of energy that reminded Jake of himself when he was her age. "You wanted to see me?" "Yes, Amy. Sit down." Jake closed the drawer with the crystal inside. "I have a new assignment. For you." Amy sat in the chair across from his desk. She commanded a ship called the USS Defender, one of the newest and fastest ships in the human fleet. "What kind of assignment, sir?" "I want you to take the Defender and continue the search for the Zorian home system." Amy's face showed surprise. "Sir, we have been searching for 15 years. We have explored over 300 star systems looking for them. Many people think the Zorians might not exist anymore." Jake felt a flash of anger, but he kept his voice calm. "The Zorians exist, Captain. I met them. They saved my life and the lives of my crew. We made a promise to them." "I know, sir. I have read your reports many times. But, Admiral, with respect, maybe they do not want to be found. Maybe they moved far away on purpose." Jake stood up and walked back to the window. Outside, a huge cargo ship was docking with the station. It carried food and supplies to one of the colonies. All of this, the ships, the colonies, the growing human civilization, existed partly because the Zorians had saved one small exploration ship 15 years ago. "Amy, let me tell you something about promises," Jake said. "When you make a real promise, not just words you say to make someone feel better, but a real promise from your heart, it does not have an expiration date. It does not matter if 15 years pass, or 50 years, or 100 years. A promise is forever." Amy was quiet for a moment. "What if the Zorians are dead, Admiral? What if something happened to them?" Jake had thought about that possibility many times. It was the worst thing he could imagine. "Then we need to know that too. We need to know what happened to our friends." Jake opened his desk drawer again and took out the friendship beacon. Amy's eyes grew wide as she saw the crystal with its moving lights. "I have never seen anything like that," she said. "Zorian technology. This is how they would call us if they needed help. It has been quiet for 15 years, but I know it still works. I can feel it." Jake handed the crystal to Amy. She held it carefully, turning it over in her hands. The lights inside seemed to dance faster when she touched it. "It is warm," she said with wonder. "Take it with you. Keep searching. And Amy, make sure your crew understands why this is important. We are not just looking for aliens. We are looking for the beings who taught us that kindness exists everywhere in the universe." Amy nodded and stood up. "I will find them, Admiral. I promise." After Amy left, Jake sat alone in his office. He thought about Dr. Lisa Brooks, who now ran the largest medical research center in human space. She had used what she learned from the Zorian healer to save thousands of human lives. He thought about Sam Williams, who had retired but still taught young engineers about the amazing things he had seen Melthos do with 6 arms and infinite patience. Jake opened his computer and looked at a file he read every few months. It was a report from Commander Ben Hayes, his best intelligence officer. Ben's job was to listen to all the radio signals and communications that human ships picked up in deep space. He looked for any sign of Zorian technology or language. The report was always the same: no contact. But there was something new this time. Ben had written a note at the bottom. Admiral, we are picking up disturbing signals from the far edge of explored space. Multiple star systems have gone silent in the last year. No human colonies, but we had scientific stations monitoring some of them. All contact lost. Might be technical problems, but the pattern is strange. Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. He had been in space long enough to know that when multiple systems went silent at the same time, it usually meant trouble. Big trouble. He opened a communication channel to Ben Hayes. The younger man's face appeared on Jake's screen. Ben, tell me about these silent systems. It is probably nothing, Admiral. Space is big and equipment breaks down, but... Ben paused. Sir, the pattern looks like something is moving through that region, destroying or capturing everything in its path. What kind of something? I do not know. But Admiral, that region is in the same general direction as your best guess for Zorian space. Jake felt his heart skip. Are you suggesting that whatever is out there might have reached the Zorians? I am suggesting that we should be prepared for any possibility. Jake ended the communication and sat back in his chair. He looked at his desk drawer where he usually kept the friendship beacon. The drawer was empty now because Amy Stone was carrying the crystal into the unknown regions of space. For 15 years, Jake had worried that the Zorians might call for help when humanity was not ready to answer. He had worked hard to build up the human fleet, to make sure they had ships and weapons and soldiers who could travel anywhere in the galaxy. But now he had a different worry. What if the Zorians had called for help, and humans had been too far, away to hear? What if somewhere in the darkness between the stars, the beings who had saved his life were fighting for their own lives? Jake opened another communication channel. This one went to every ship captain and colony commander in human space. This is Admiral Morrison. I am issuing new standing orders effective immediately. Any ship that encounters Zorian technology, or any signal that might be from Zorian sources, will immediately contact my office. Any ship that finds evidence of Zorian distress will render immediate assistance, regardless of other orders or missions. He paused, thinking about the young captain he had been 15 years ago, shaking hands with an alien who had risked everything to help strangers. Furthermore, all ships will monitor emergency frequencies at all times. If our friends are out there, if they need us, we will be ready to answer their call. Jake ended the transmission and walked back to his window. Somewhere among those distant stars, Captain Amy Stone was searching for the Zorians. Somewhere even farther away, something dangerous might be moving through space, destroying worlds. And somewhere in the darkness, if Jake was very lucky, Kethvar was still alive and still believed that humans kept their promises. Jake had spent 15 years preparing for this moment. Now all he could do was wait and hope that when the friendship beacon finally spoke, humanity would be ready to listen. Jake Morrison was in a meeting with the Human Space Council when it happened. He was explaining why the military needed more ships when Captain Amy Stone's voice came through his emergency communicator. Admiral Morrison, you need to come to the Defender immediately. The crystal is active. Jake felt his blood turn to ice. He had been waiting 15 years for those words. I will be there in 1 hour. He left the council meeting without explanation and took the fastest transport ship to where the USS Defender was stationed. Amy Stone met him at the airlock, and Jake could see excitement and fear in her eyes. When did it start? Jake asked, as they walked quickly to Amy's cabin. 3 hours ago. It began glowing brighter. Then it started making sounds. Admiral, it is definitely trying to communicate, but the signal is very weak. They entered Amy's cabin, and Jake saw the friendship beacon sitting on her desk. The crystal was glowing, much brighter than it had ever glowed before. Soft musical sounds came from inside it, like the way Zorians talked, but the sounds were broken and full of static. Jake picked up the crystal. It was hot now, almost too hot to hold. Can you make the signal clearer? Amy nodded and turned on some equipment. I have been working on it. Listen to this. She pressed a button, and suddenly the sounds became much clearer. Jake heard Kethvar's voice, older now and full of pain, speaking in English. Jake Morrison of the humans. Jake Morrison, friend keeper, promise maker. If you can hear this, if you still live, please listen. Jake's hands shook as he held the crystal. After 15 years, his alien friend was calling for help. The message continued. Our worlds are burning, Jake Morrison. The children colonies are dying. An enemy has come to our space. They call themselves the Hegemony. They have great ships, with terrible weapons. We are a peaceful people. We do not know how to fight such evil. Jake felt tears in his eyes. The Zorians were in trouble, just as he had feared. We have tried to run, but they follow us. We have tried to hide, but they find us. 3 of our 12 worlds are gone now. All the people on those worlds are dead or captured. The enemy wants our bio-healing technology. They want to use it for war. The message became fuzzy for a moment, then cleared again. Jake Morrison, you once promised that humans would help us if we called. I remember your words of friendship. I am calling now. If humans still breathe, if honor still guides your people, we ask for the debt to be honored. We are sending our location. Please, if you can help us, come quickly. We do not have much time. The crystal gave one more pulse of bright light, then returned to its normal gentle glow. But now Jake could see something new inside it. Numbers, and symbols that showed exactly where the Zorians were. How far? Jake asked. Amy was already working on her star charts. Very far, Admiral. At maximum speed, it would take our fastest ships 4 days to get there. 4 days. Jake thought about what the Hegemony could do to the Zorians in 4 days. Get me a communication channel to Earth. Emergency priority. Within minutes, Jake was talking to the Human Space Council. The same people he had walked out on an hour ago were now listening to the most important request he had ever made. Council members, I need every available ship in the human fleet. All of them. Council President Helen Clark looked confused. Admiral Morrison, what are you talking about? Jake played Kethvar's message for the entire council. When it finished, the room was completely quiet. This is the alien species that saved your life 15 years ago? Asked Council Member Robert Kim. Yes. And now they need our help. Council Member Sarah Martinez leaned forward. Admiral, you are asking us to send our entire fleet to a part of space we have never seen. To fight an enemy we know nothing about. To save aliens we have never met. Yes, Jake said simply. That is completely insane, said Council Member Frank Davis. We have our own colonies to protect. We have our own people to think about. We cannot risk everything for aliens. Jake felt anger building in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. Council Member Davis, let me explain something to you about honor. 15 years ago, when my ship was dying in space, the Zorians risked their lives to save us. They did not know us. They had never seen humans before. They helped us because it was the right thing to do. That was their choice, Davis said. We did not ask them to help us. No, we did not ask. But we promised. I promised that if they ever needed help, humans would answer their call. That promise was not just my words. It was a promise from humanity itself. President Clark spoke up. Admiral Morrison, even if we wanted to help, do we have enough ships to make a difference? This Hegemony destroyed 3 Zorian worlds. They must be very powerful. Jake had thought about this. Madam President, we have 847 ships in our fleet. That is the largest military force humanity has ever assembled. But more important than our ships is what we represent. The Zorians saved us when we were weak. Now we are strong. If we help them, it will show the galaxy that kindness is not weakness. It will show that good beings can work together against evil. The council members talked among themselves for several minutes. Jake waited, his heart beating fast. Everything depended on this moment. Finally, President Clark spoke. Admiral Morrison, the council will vote. All in favor of sending the fleet to help the Zorians? Jake watched as hands went up around the table. 5 hands, then 6, then 7. All opposed? 3. Hands went up. The motion passes, President Clark said. Admiral Morrison, you have authorization to take the entire human fleet to Zorian space. But Admiral, if this goes wrong, if we lose our ships and leave our colonies defenseless, the blame will be yours alone. Jake nodded. I understand, madam. President, I accept full responsibility. 2 hours later, Jake stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, the largest ship in the human fleet. Captain Tony Reed, the best tactical commander Jake knew, was preparing 847 ships for the longest jump in human history. Dr. Lisa Brooks was there too. older now but still determined to help. She had brought 3 hospital ships full of medical supplies. If the Zorians are hurt as badly as Kethvar's message suggested, they will need doctors, she had said. Admiral, Captain Reed said, all ships report ready. We can jump to Zorian space in 5 minutes. Jake looked out at the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. Ships filled the space around them as far as he could see. Fast destroyers, heavy cruisers, massive carriers, support vessels, hospital ships, and supply ships. Every human ship that could fight or help was here. Admiral, came a voice from the communications station. We are receiving a message from Captain Amy Stone on the Defender. Put her on screen. Amy's face appeared on the main screen. She was holding the friendship beacon, and it was glowing very brightly now. Admiral, the crystal is reacting to our presence. I think it knows we are coming to help. Jake smiled for the first time in hours. Tell Kethvar we are on our way. Tell him humans keep their promises. Jake turned to Captain Reed. All ships prepare to jump. We are going to show the galaxy what happens when someone threatens our friends. As 847 human ships prepared to leap across the void to save an alien species, Jake thought about a young captain who had once shaken hands with a stranger in the darkness. That handshake was about to change the balance of power in the entire galaxy. Jump! Jake ordered. The stars disappeared as the largest fleet in human history raced toward their destiny. When 847 human ships appeared in Zorian space, Jake Morrison saw something that made his heart break. The beautiful world he remembered from Kethvar's star charts was burning. Great fires covered half the planet's surface. Strange ships filled the space around it. Ships that looked like black metal spiders with too many legs. My God, whispered Captain Reed. Admiral, there must be over 1,000 enemy ships here. Jake stared at the main screen. The hegemony fleet was huge, bigger than anything he had imagined. But between the enemy ships and the burning planet, he could see smaller vessels that looked familiar. Zorian ships with their smooth curved surfaces were fighting desperately against the black spider ships. Communications, find me Kethvar, Jake ordered. It took several minutes, but finally a voice came through the radio. It was Kethvar, but he sounded very old and very tired. Jake Morrison? Is it really you? It is me, old friend. I brought some help. There was a long pause. Then Kethvar's voice came back, and Jake could hear tears in it. You came. After all. These years you came. Jake Morrison. I knew humans were people of honor, but I did not dare to hope. How bad is it down there? Jake asked. Very bad. Most of our cities are destroyed. We have maybe 50,000 people left on the planet, and they are hiding in underground shelters. The hegemony has been trying to capture our healers alive. They want to force us to make weapons with our biotechnology. Jake felt anger burn in his chest. That will never happen. Can you get your ships to pull back? We are going to deal with the hegemony fleet. Jake Morrison, there are so many of them. Even with your great fleet, I do not know if we can win. Jake looked around the bridge of the USS Liberty. His crew was ready. Through the ship's communication system, he could hear 800 other captains preparing their ships for battle. Kethvar, 15 years ago, you saved us when we had no hope. Today, we return the favor. Get your people to safety. We will handle the rest. Jake switched to the fleet communication channel. All ships. This is Admiral Morrison. You can see the situation. The hegemony has destroyed most of the Zorian worlds and is trying to destroy this one too. The Zorians are peaceful people who have never hurt anyone. They saved human lives when they could have ignored us. Today we show the galaxy what humanity does to bullies who pick on our friends. Jake paused, looking at the burning planet on his screen. All ships, attack pattern Delta. We go in hard and fast. Protect the Zorian ships. Save as many people as we can. And remember, we are not just fighting for the Zorians today. We are fighting to prove that good beings can work together against evil. The human fleet moved forward like a great wall of metal and weapons. The hegemony ships turned to face them, their black hulls gleaming like the shells of evil insects. The battle began with a storm of energy weapons and missiles. The space between the fleets lit up with explosions. Jake watched from the Liberty's bridge as human ships dove between the enemy vessels, their guns blazing. Captain Reed, take us in close. I want to see these hegemony commanders face to face. The Liberty charged toward the largest enemy ship, a massive vessel that looked like a black cathedral with weapon ports instead of windows. As they got closer, Jake's communication officer picked up a signal from that ship. "Admiral, someone wants to talk to you. Put them on screen." The face that appeared was not like any alien Jake had seen before. It looked almost like a human face, but the skin was gray and the eyes were completely black. When it spoke, its voice was cold and emotionless. "I am War Commander Thex of the Hegemony. You are the leader of these human ships?" "I am Admiral Morrison. You are attacking our friends. That stops now." Thex made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your friends? The Zorians are weaklings who refuse to use their gifts for proper purposes. We will take their biotechnology and make it serve the strong as it should. The Zorians are not weaklings. They are decent people who help others, something you would not understand. Decent people do not survive in this galaxy, human. Only the strong survive. Your small fleet cannot defeat us. Surrender now, and we will let some of your ships leave." Jake smiled grimly. "War Commander, you made a mistake when you attacked the Zorians. You see, they once helped a human. Today, an entire fleet answers their call." The screen went black as Thex cut the communication. A moment later, every weapon on the Hegemony command ship fired at the USS Liberty, but the Liberty was not alone. 20 human ships moved between it and the enemy fire, their shields absorbing the attack. Then they fired back, their weapons focused on the Hegemony ship's weak points. The battle raged for hours. Human ships worked together with Zorian vessels, protecting each other and striking at the enemy. Jake watched as Captain Amy Stone's ship, the Defender, rescued a damaged Zorian cruiser by positioning itself between the alien ship and 3 Hegemony attackers. Dr. Brooks's medical ship stayed back from the fighting, but they were busy too. Wounded Zorians and humans were brought aboard the hospital ships, where human and Zorian doctors worked side by side to save lives. The turning point came when Jake realized something about the Hegemony fleet. They were used to fighting enemies who ran away or surrendered quickly. They were not used to fighting people who kept coming no matter how badly they were hurt. "All ships," Jake broadcast, "concentrate fire on their command ship. Take out their leader and the rest will fall apart." Every human ship that could still fight turned toward War Commander Thex's vessel. Wave after wave of missiles and energy beams hammered into the Black Cathedral ship. Its shields failed, then its armor began to crack. Finally, the great ship exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the entire star system. When the Hegemony ship saw their commander die, something broke inside them. Some tried to run, others surrendered. Within an hour, the battle was over. Jake stood on the Liberty's bridge, looking at the Zorian planet. The fires were still burning, but Zorian rescue ships were landing to help the survivors. Human ships were helping too, using their transporters to beam people out of the underground shelters. "Admiral," came Kethvar's voice over the radio. "The planet is safe. Our people are safe. How can we ever thank you?" Jake smiled. "You already did 15 years ago." 3 days later, Jake stood on the surface of the Zorian world in a place that had once been a beautiful city. Now, it was mostly ruins, but Zorian and human workers were already starting to rebuild. Kethvar walked toward him across the rubble. The old Zorian looked much older than when Jake had first met him, but his eyes were still kind. "My friend," Kethvar said, and embraced Jake with all 4 of his arms. "You kept your promise." "I told you I would," Jake said. "A promise is forever." Kethvar stepped back and looked at the human and Zorian workers rebuilding the city together. "Jake Morrison, what we have built here is bigger than a promise between friends. This is the beginning of something new." Jake nodded. Around them, human engineers were teaching Zorian workers how to build stronger buildings. Zorian healers were showing human doctors new ways to treat injuries. Children from both species were playing together in the ruins, laughing and making up games that mixed human and Zorian rules. "The galaxy is watching," Jake said. "News of this battle is spreading to every world. Other species are going to know that good people can work together, that friends protect friends." 6 months later, Jake Morrison stood in his new office on SI, the first human-Zorian joint space station. Through his window, he could see ships from 12 different species. The Alliance, as they were calling it, was growing every day. The friendship beacon sat on his desk, But it was not alone now. Similar crystals from other species were there too. The Altarians, who were great builders. The Vegan traders, who had the fastest ships in the galaxy. The Centauri scientists, who had joined after hearing how humans and Zorians had worked together. All of them had joined because they had seen something amazing. They had seen that when decent people stood together, they could defeat any evil. Jake picked up the original friendship beacon, the one Kethvar had given him so long ago. It still pulsed with warm light. But now the light seemed happier somehow. There was a knock on his door. "Come in." Kethvar entered, followed by a small Zorian child who looked about 10 years old in human terms. "Jake Morrison, I want you to meet my granddaughter, Yelketh. She is going to be a healer like her grandmother." The little Zorian looked up at Jake with big, curious eyes. "Are you really the human who saved our world?" Jake knelt down so he was at the child's eye level. "I am one of the humans who helped, but your grandfather saved me first, a long time ago." Yelketh thought about this. "So you helped each other?" "Yes," Jake said. "That is what friends do." The child smiled and held up one small hand. Jake shook it gently, just as he had shaken hands with her grandfather 15 years before. "Will you teach me to shake hands the human way?" Yelketh asked. "I want to be friends with everyone." Jake looked at Kethvar, who was watching with tears in his eyes. "I would be honored to," Jake said. As Jake taught the young Zorian how humans showed friendship, he thought about how a single handshake in the darkness of space had led to this moment. One act of kindness had grown into an alliance that would protect the galaxy for generations to come. The friendship beacon pulsed warmly on his desk, and Jake knew that somewhere among the stars, other strangers were meeting for the first time. Maybe some of them were learning to shake hands, too. The galaxy was a better place because once, long ago, strangers had chosen to help each other. And that choice had echoed across the years until it became a song of hope that would never end.